Hi everyone, my name is Emily and today I am going to be covering my literacy learning reflection. And let me just go ahead and apologize in advance. I've started and stopped enough times and I'm tired of hearing my own voice. So if there's brief pauses in here while I get my thoughts together, I apologize. I'm just tired of starting over. But like I said, I'm doing my literacy learning reflection today. Here is my journal that I've been keeping throughout the duration of this particular course. Let me just get into it. So one of my earliest entries, I believe entry number 2, was the literacy dig. In this entry, I kind of collected everyday artifacts, if you will, messages, calendars, schools, assignments, instructions. At the time, I thought literacy was literally just being able to read and write in school, end of story, end of thought. But after completing the entry and doing the readings that were by Denny Taylor, that kind of showed me that literacy is more about completing tasks than simply just reading words. And I found this particularly interesting because I'm a language teacher and language learner, and being able to be literate, if you will, in different languages has changed the way I see the world and how I change. And it's also changed the way I see people. So this kind of like dove into like my side of things. So I found this really cool. But yes, some of the artifacts that I have listed on here were like a grocery list, text messages, mail and envelopes, school's assignments, calendars, and instructions, of course. And then as my final reflection on this assignment, I put literacy is used in many ways beyond school. It's a part of everyday communication, organization, and decision making. All right. And then I went on to talk about reading through different lenses. And I really talked about reading in academic disciplines. In this entry, I reflect on how reading changes depending on the subject. Whereas in history, people read to understand causes and perspectives, whereas in Spanish, for example, we are trying to read through the eyes of a totally different culture. And then, of course, in math, we're usually reading for instructions, and we're trying to follow structures of like math problems and like logical thinking. And I realized that I was seeing through these different lenses just automatically, but I didn't have, before this assignment, a language to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. And then I did like the entries 4 and 5, which was talking about writing it in different contexts. So like once when it's easy and then once when it's hard. Then I realize when it's easy, I usually just flow through it. And then when it's hard, I tend to like really think about what I'm writing. And I really, especially in college, I really struggled to organize my thoughts and like get to the point in a logical order. So I really had to do like the outline that we're taught to do to get from point A to point B. I tend to babble in my speech, so that was always a struggle for me. So I did enjoy writing that one, but my ultimate favorite was literacy in my content area, and in my case, that's Spanish. And in my journal, I put reading in Spanish involves understanding vocabulary, grammar, and context in other language. I use context clues and patterns to help me understand meaning. With writing, we require attention to grammar, verb conjugation, and vocabulary accuracy. It takes time and careful thinking, as my students need to understand. Then with listening, it involves understanding spoken Spanish, which can be very fast and very challenging. And I focus on keywords and context. This is what I'm trying to teach my students right now, is there are some words that are cognates. So you're going to be able to tell what they are. I can't remember the sentence that we were talking about the other day, but it said especial in it. And most students can read that word and figure out, oh, that probably means special. And then they already knew one word in the sentence, so they were able to figure out what the part in the middle was. With speaking requires quick thinking and applying vocabulary and grammar in real time. It's difficult. It builds confidence through practice. And then in my final reflection, I summed it up by saying Spanish literacy involves all 4 skills working together to build communication and understanding. Looking across the entries that I have completed, I definitely saw a growth in my thinking, especially just because I love Spanish, and just particularly in that department. But as I said before, I was thinking literacy was just reading and writing in school. And then I began to understand it as something that is literally a part of everyday life. I'm looking at the questions I'm supposed to answer. How will the experiences documented in my notebook influence my teaching? I think I'm actually going, next year, I'm going to start having students keep a journal like this, and it'll be part of their grade where they have to put like, how's your day in Spanish, but actually notice like what they see their brain doing, what was easier today than it was the day before. I really like the idea of like taking a thought and putting it down in a journal, especially when it comes to monitoring how your brain works. And so, yeah, that's how I would say my notebook influenced my teaching methods and approaches to learning. And like I said before, my thinking across time was just noticing how I was able to think of literacy differently. Anyway, I have hit the time limit, probably due to my pauses and babbling. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful day. Bye.